Welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast, hosted by Dave Roberts. Humanity possesses a unique skill, the ability to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. This podcast embraces that ability, offering learning opportunities through conversations with extraordinary guests. Dave aims to leave a positive mark on individuals around the world. So before you dive into today's episode, please share this podcast with your network, including friends, family, and colleagues. And please consider leaving a rating or review. Your support makes all the difference.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, and today it is my pleasure to have as a return guest, Carl Walsh. Carl is a speaker, consultant, and business coach who blends theatrical expertise with corporate leadership. With 20 years as an award-winning actor and director, 25 years in corporate management, including as an IT director and 15 years as a professional speaker, he brings dynamic storytelling and strategic insight to business growth. As the co-host of the Oval Table podcast and co-founder of Alpha Dog Small Business Coaching, Carl helps small businesses foster creativity, improve communication, and apply lessons from the theater to leadership and innovation. A certified red team thinking coach, he challenges teams to think critically and adapt in a rapidly changing world. Carl, welcome back to the Teaching Journeys podcast. I've been looking forward to part 2 for some time now.
Oh, so have I. We had a great conversation the last time, and there's so much more that we can go into. So I've been looking forward to this.
You were episode 211 of the Teaching Journeys podcast. That episode was publicized, I believe, on January 20th of 26. And we took a look at your time in the British theater, how it informed the lessons that you have imparted to businesses, how that's informed who you are. And we thought it'd be fun for the second interview to do a little bit more, take a deeper dive into creativity. We talked a little bit about creativity in the workplace before,
Correct.
but just to take a deeper dive into it for this episode. And also to have you share some of your more memorable moments and stories from British theater and how that's informed what you do in the workplace. So, and also we got to give a second shout out to Anastasia Lipsky. Anastasia introduced us to begin with. She's a great podcast agent. She really takes good care of her clients, vets podcast hosts very thoroughly, insists that her podcast clients host very carefully, and she's just a great, very professional person to work with.
Absolutely.
So,
and a great staff, by the way. Lena and Sandra, shout out to them as well.
oh, absolutely. Lena has been great. Her and Anastasia together have always given me what I needed with the clients that they've referred, and they're just a great team. And that's just a great organization to work with. So, So let's take a deeper dive into your most memorable experiences from the British theater and how those experiences inform how you approach creativity in the workplace with your clients.
One of the things that always impressed me in theater is that the people that I met that didn't have to do this, that took time to help me, they took the time to reach down and give me a leg up. Even if we weren't working together on projects, the people that I met at the National Theater, just backstage, always very kind and very generous with their time. That was great. And where this comes out of is the collaborative nature of theater. In rehearsals, everything is out in the open. Everybody's there. Everybody's watching. Everybody's contributing. And so ideas sometimes come from the most unexpected places. And mistakes happen. And sometimes those mistakes are pure genius. And you have to be open to that. So the important thing is that everybody matters. And everybody's ideas matter. Now, they aren't always good ideas. And experimentation matters. Business should work the same way. And that's the important thing here, is that collaboration works in a big way. I know particularly in small business, that sometimes seems hard to do. Is it a waste of time? Is experimentation a waste of time? It's not. Of course, everyone's heard the stories about Thomas Edison and all that, where his mindset was every failure is one step closer to success. And sometimes that's hard to believe, but it's the truth. It really is. I know management often is afraid that creativity will get out of control, that it will be a waste of time and money, but it really isn't, because once the idea is found, once the creativity is captured, then it goes into the system. Then it goes into a controlled system. And then you find out where that idea goes, because you don't always know where it's going to end up. But you need that openness. You need that freedom to let that creativity come out. And the thing is finding the child to let that creativity come out, not to become childish, not to become childish, but to find the openness that we all had when we were children. And then the creativity can flow. But you need that safe environment where no idea is stupid, no idea is dumb, but every idea can be explored. That's the important thing.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the basic forms of creativity, and I don't know if business leaders would frame brainstorming as creativity, but
It is.
yeah, it is. And we used to do brainstorming all the time where I work. And
Mhm.
even some of the more on the surface, Carl, ridiculous ideas that came out lend us some great solutions, because we just had the freedom to explore. We had the freedom to just engage in primary process, the first thing that came to our mind without evaluating it. And then we took a look at it after, and we had some really creative, innovative solutions that became part of the workplace, for years and years to come.
Yeah, I don't think I discussed this in our last conversation, but there was a show that I was directing by one of my favorite playwrights, and it's a dark comedy. It's friends getting together on a weekend to mourn the loss of a mutual friend. And there's a scene where they're all getting drunk, and some things are coming out that are not very pleasant. Some hatreds coming out. But this is a comedy, right? It's a comedy, even if there's a dark side to it. And finally, at the end of the scene, one of them has gotten really drunk and some really dark things are coming out. The scene is ending and they need to carry this person out. So the guy gets him under one arm and another guy gets him under the other arm, and they're going to walk him out. We had just placed the furniture, and they have to go out the right side because that's just how the theater was built. And there's an overstuffed chair blocking the exit. And so they stop and they look at me and they say, we can't get out. And I said, oh, just take him over the chair and we'll fix that. Well, they did. And they took him, and he stepped on the chair and stepped on the back of the chair, and it just went over very neatly, and they walked him out. It was one of the funniest things I had ever seen. And I couldn't stop laughing. And the light bulb went off, and I said, that is the perfect way to end this scene, because the scene could have ended on a really nasty note. And I didn't want that. This is the perfect way to end the scene on a huge laugh. And I said, guys, we're keeping it. Do not move that chair. It stays there. And, they were very unsure about that. They were, no, guys, we're going to do this. This was a mistake, but it was a happy mistake. Well, as it turned out, it was perfect. It was one of the biggest laughs in the whole show. The audience loved it, and it did. It sent the show into the next scene on exactly the right mood. And so sometimes mistakes, if you're open to them, are winners. And it's the old story of Post-it notes where the glue was a total failure. It was for something else, and it turned out to be one of the biggest products for 3M of the time. If you're open to it, it works.
Is it safe to say that in the context of truly creative environments, there are no mistakes?
That's right. It's either a happy mistake like that, or it takes you one step further to what you really need.
Yeah, I mean, I look at mistakes now as opportunities for growth,
Mm-hmm.
opportunities to try different things, opportunities to learn. And for me, I think that's all part of the creative process for me. It allows me to I think become more creative when I welcome everything as being
Mm-hmm.
in service to me, as being, committed to my own growth. So
Right.
do you ever get, I don't know, input from people that say, I'm not really creative, and how do you expect me to learn creativity if I don't feel I'm innately creative?
Yeah, and you hear that all the time. And I did mention that in our last conversation, is that adults so often, the vast majority of adults feel they're not creative. They feel that life has just beaten it out of them, or they just haven't been creative in a long time. So they don't think that they are. But I always stress, look back at when you were a child. And when a stick was a sword and a box was a fort, and you were instantly creative. You didn't have to think about it. That child is still there.
Yeah.
You didn't lose your creativity. You just misplaced it. And if you're in the right environment to be able to bring that out, and it has to be a safe environment, and rules have to be in place where people can be ridiculous. And you start it with the laughter. And I do a lot of exercises with people, and it's amazing how quickly you can get that going and bring that child out again. It's surprisingly easy.
What have you heard or been told from the people that you work with, the organizations that you work with? What are the barriers for them to get in touch with that child in the
Oh,
workplace?
it's just finding a safe place. They need someone to go in there, bring some people into a room, set some rules, and give them the exercises. It's amazing, once they've been through an experience like that, they walk out of that room with a different attitude, completely different attitude. We used to do that at Disney. We we used to get a bunch of people together and just go play games. Stupid games, ridiculous games, utterly ridiculous. Even at somebody's house on a weekend. We called them the Silly Olympics. And we would think of the dumbest games we possibly could. Have a beer and a barbecue and just laugh and do stupid things and go in on Monday, and we saw each other in a different light. It was just part of how we could put together a family and make those bonds so that when things went bad, when things went south, we could count on each other.
Yes. And particularly in the workplace, you're going to have ups and downs. There's going to be organizational issues. There's going to be staffing issues. There's going to be supply issues. And
And people are going
essentially,
to make mistakes, and
yep,
and it happens, and serious things will go wrong.
yep.
And are you going to point fingers? Well, that happens a lot. It never did at Disney. Never, ever did. It's just, okay, what happened? How do we fix it? And everybody jumped in and we fixed it because our stores needed help and it was up to us to fix it.
Yeah. I think I heard you allude to this earlier. If we have like norms of the workplace where creativity and collaboration are welcomed, and that the
Mm-hmm.
organizational culture will provide a safe place for that to occur, and how it can tie in for achieving the organizational mission, I think a lot of individuals would be more vested in their
Yeah.
workplaces.
Yeah. And if you know, what is the purpose of that company? What does that company really do? Get down to what is the purpose. I don't think I mentioned this about Disney as well. I remember one day I was having a bad day at the office, just having a bad day. And the first Disney store that was ever opened was across the street in the Glendale Galleria. And I just had to leave the office. I just had to get outside and clear my head, do an attitude adjustment. And so I got out, I walked across the street to the mall, I went into the Disney store. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon. And I just went into the store because it was a happy place. And I went in there and it was pretty empty. And in those days, there was what we called Plush Mountain in the back of the store. And that's where we heaped up all the plush toys. And I went back there and I crossed my arms and I was just looking around. And down by Plush Mountain there, I saw a young lady with her toddler. And they were on the floor playing with the stuffed animals, which we encouraged. We were all for that. We were yes, please do that. And I stood there watching them and I realized that's it. That's what we do. That is the purpose of this company. Yeah, we have to make profit. Yeah, we make money and all that. But that moment is what we create hundreds, maybe thousands of times a day around the world. We create that moment, something that mother and child share. That's our purpose. Nothing else. That's the bottom line right there. And I was able to go back to the office with my attitude totally readjusted, and I never forgot it. And I was now focused on what we do. If you know what that purpose is, how can you ever have a truly bad day?
You can't.
Yeah.
And I mean, Disney has brought families together in a variety of different ways for years. I mean, since I've been a kid.
Yeah.
I remember when Walt Disney was still alive and he would come on and introduce the Disney features and, the other programs. And it was back then, you're right, it was about bringing families together.
Yeah. And if you run a restaurant, if your purpose is to create some of the best meals your customers have in their week, if you know that that's your purpose, great. And whatever your business is, you probably have a customer.
Yeah.
And if serving that customer the best way you possibly can, if that's your real purpose, the money will come. If you always keep that purpose in mind, you can't go wrong.
No.
And innovation will also flow if you're always thinking about how can I serve my customer better.
Yeah.
Never settle for what you're doing.
No, and I mean, the needs of our customers are going to change as the climate dictates, and we have to be responsive to that.
Right. Now, it doesn't hurt to be one step ahead of the customer.
Yep.
Someone asked Henry E. Ford, do you pay attention to everything your customer wants? And his answer was, not necessarily. If I paid attention to only that, and I asked my customer, what do you want? The answer would be a faster horse. So you want to always be a little one step ahead. And that's where the experimentation comes in.
Yep.
And then pay attention to the customer.
Absolutely. And I think to be creative, you have to have a proactive approach. You have to have kind of a visionary approach in terms of anticipating what the needs are going to be in the future and try to respond to that and apply that while still being focused on the present. But the other thing, when you were mentioning finding the child, the basis of how children learn is through play.
Yeah.
And that's how they learn. When we get into adulthood, we worry about, career, we worry about, family, we worry about the practical stuff. And a lot of times we forget to get in touch with that inner child, that playful side of us. So why the heck can't we continue to foster that talent, foster that creativity through play when we're adults and in the workplace?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the innovation comes from. It's just dreaming. One of our characters in Dogalogic that we have is the dreamer, the one that is not bound by the possible. That's a very important part of a business. Someone who's not bound by what's possible.
Yeah, you transcend limitations and you just dream. You look at the most desirable, maybe in some ways, at that point, unattainable outcome, but you still go there.
Just the future is in the hands of the person who's always asking, what if?
Yeah, they continue to ask questions. They continue to say, what can we do to improve? What can we do to continue to be progressive? They're not sitting still. They're not resting on their laurels. They're continuing to evolve. And I think as organizations, if they can commit to that and employ some type of creativity as a norm, or as part of their organizational mission or collaboration, I think you're going to see just greater outcomes and a greater workplace culture.
Even in the most mundane product.
Yeah.
If you're standing still, you won't be in business for very long.
No. And let me ask you, this is going to sound like an obvious question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If we took creativity out of the equation, what does problem solving and leadership look like without creativity?
Okay, there's a blurred line between managing and leadership. Okay. The person who's looking to see, do we have enough widgets to get through the month? That's a vital person. That's a vital part of an organization. That's a manager. The person who is moving the business forward, that's the leader. The person who is inspiring people to come to work every day. The person who is making people want to come to work, to be happy to come to work. There's been so many studies done that show that at least 60% of the workforce has quietly quit. They show up to work, they do what they have to do. The manager is making sure that they do what they have to do, and that's it. They go home. The leader is the one that takes people beyond that. And the best places that I have worked at, I had fun. And I wanted to go to work. And going to work on the weekend was no problem. Because I wanted to be there.
Yep.
If I had to be there late at night, no problem. Because I wanted to be there. And there's a couple of places that I worked with where it was like that. Obviously, Disney was one, and another one that no longer exists, sadly. But they had me doing things where I was learning. I was learning really valuable things and getting to do things I had never done before. And that was because I had a leader that was pushing me in those directions. And that was a leader. That was a leader taking me there. And I worked for that person in a couple of different companies after that. And I was glad when he needed me, I went, because that was a person I wanted to work for.
Well, he sounds like a leader who recognized what his greatest resource was, and that was employees that were well trained, that were interested in professional growth and development. He instilled that attitude in his leadership. That was a very stated, expectation, is that the better that person does, the better that leader looks.
Yeah. When I started with that person, I had absolutely no training whatsoever in IT. None. None. By the time I was done with him or he was done with me, I was operating heavy metal. I was operating the big machines and running companies that way. For some reason, he saw I could do that.
Yep.
How he knew that, I have no idea. But working with him, I got entire companies going on PCs. PCs were a new thing, and I was able to train the people to do it. And then he took me on to the big machines, the big IBM machines.
And I had a leader like that as well, too. The only person I would in my time in the addictions field that I would call a true leader.
Mm-hmm.
He was an ex-Navy SEAL commander and a social worker, and he knew how to build teams. He knew how to inspire teams.
Mm-hmm.
He knew how to put individuals in positions that maximize their strengths.
Yeah.
And he encouraged collaboration and creativity. I remember this was a day, Carl, in 1996, and your discussion about IT just spurred this memory in me. He came up to me and he said, "You're going to get a computer." And I looked at him and I said, "What the heck am I going to do with a computer?" This was 96. We were doing our treatment plans manually. I had everything set, I had everything by a system. But I'll tell you something. He said, "Just trust me." And I did. And that son of a gun had me doing pie charts for him
There you go.
in management meetings. And he was bragging to the other members of the team. He goes, "I got Davey doing pie charts for me." And he
Mhm.
was pretty resistive to
Yeah.
having a computer to begin with. But the key for him, and I think other leaders that see the potential in their staff, is that they're visionaries. They realize
Mhm.
that the more resources that they can supply to their staff, even when those resources aren't widely accepted throughout the business world, the more proactive we can become, the bigger the jump that we get on the competition, and just the better we are equipped to deal with an ever-changing world. And it was all because he dared to be creative.
And that's what we're talking about. The key to leadership. It's recognizing the talents in the people that you have and being able to maximize that. And that's what our Dogalogic, our whole methodology is being able to understand what type of personality, business personality you're looking at, and being able to talk their language and recognize where they can be maximized and lead them there. And then they're going to be excited. They're going to be excited to be there and do that.
Yes. And I think the more trust you have in your employees' potential, the better off the organization's going to be.
Oh God,
And
yeah.
and any success of that employee, providing that the leader is comfortable with shared leadership, any success that employee brings to the organization is a reflection on that leader. And that leader realizes that he or she or they are only as good as the trained staff that they have working with them.
In small businesses, so often the owner is doing everything. And the best thing the owner of a small business can do is recognize the talents in the people that are there and then get them doing it, and then fire yourself from doing that job. Get out of that person's way and let them do it. Fire yourself from all those jobs that you're doing. And now you can focus on doing the things that will grow that business and, expand it.
Yes.
And, start another business.
Yeah.
That's what a small business owner should be doing. That's what an entrepreneur does.
And I mean, the key, we can't function in isolation anymore. We need to collaborate.
Absolutely.
We need to collaborate across systems. We need to be able to work together, and it has a synergistic effect if we can do that effectively.
And by the way, if people are doing what they're really meant to be doing, they'll get creative.
Absolutely.
The person closest to the problem is the person that will come up with the solutions.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is you take a look at organizations that do organizational teams. That's an environment or modality where, boy, creativity could really, providing that the leader just lets the process go as it's supposed to go and provides the resources necessary to solve the problem without telling the group how he wants the problem solved.
Right. And everybody respecting that the people around them do think differently.
Yeah.
And I know diversity is a dirty word these days, but diversity of thought should not be.
No.
And to getting the different perspectives from the people in the workplace is superpower. Superpower. And that can drive a company to a whole different level.
Yeah. because you have a variety of different perspectives that go in terms of building a specific process, a specific tool. It also
Mhm.
leads to some solid consensus decision making, which is the best kind of decision making to have.
Yeah. And if everybody has a little bit of ownership in that decision, even if it doesn't go their way, even if the final decision doesn't go their way, they had a say. They had ownership. And that makes everybody pitch in
Yeah.
on the next problem.
Do organizations, and I know I'm just going off track here for a second, but do they have a stated norm in their business practices that consensus decision making is going to be the final outcome of any discussion?
Too few do. I'm sure you're aware of the concept of siloed companies. So destructive. I worked for one company that was completely siloed. It was a company that was originally founded in the 1880s and worked like it.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I was only there for a year because I couldn't take it anymore. And frankly, they couldn't take me anymore because I just couldn't work that way. It just wasn't working out. And I went around and interviewed the people in the various departments. And one woman, God bless her, she just came out flat out and said it. I do not talk to the other departments. They're all idiots. They have no idea what they're doing. I simply will not waste my time talking to them. If she was in charge of accounting, and she will not talk to anyone else. And pretty much everybody else operated on that basis. At least she said so. At least she was honest. And it was impossible to help that company in any way. And it turned out all the senior vice presidents were embezzling, and it was a horrible place. So we parted ways.
Yeah, I could see why you would.
Yeah, nothing you could do there.
No, especially when people aren't willing to talk to each other.
Yeah.
You need to be able to work with each other or talk to each other, because if you're not embracing diversity of thought.
Yeah, there's, I mean, just on the level of, we're IT. We handle, maintain all the IT equipment. One guy wanted to get a new PC for administrative assistant. I said, okay, great. Yeah, we'll do that for you. And I go in on Monday and I say, well, okay, what does she do? What can I get for her? He says, oh, don't worry, I already got it. I said, well, that's on my budget. I need to, I need to procure that. He says, no, I got it for you. I'll send you the invoice. I got the invoice. He had bought her something that could have run the Pentagon at a fantastic cost. And I called him up and I said, that's not kosher. That's not what she needs. I don't care what she does. I don't need this. And after he stopped yelling that it was none of my business and he'll get her what he damn well pleases, I said, okay, fine. And I realized, yeah, this place really is siloed. This is going to work out.
No, that leads to poor morale. That just
Yeah.
leads to unnecessary stress that sometimes
Yeah.
can be taken home if you're not careful, and it's not worth it. No job is worth that.
Oh, by the way, the company, which had basically a government-sponsored monopoly in the state of California, went bankrupt. Now, how do you go bankrupt when you have a government-sponsored monopoly? They ended up having to sell. I mean, just explain that to me, because they were so poorly run.
Yeah.
So poorly run.
Yep. And poor leadership, I think, is more rampant
Yeah.
than we'll probably even ever realize. But I think that's what's been the death of a lot of organizations. Is just it starts from the top.
Yeah. Now, I think new generations coming into the workplace get this point. I think they get it. And if they're led properly, they will do very, very well.
Yep. Like,
Yeah.
Speaking of this generation, we know AI is a big part of everything that we're doing
Oh,
now.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
How can we use AI responsibly to facilitate creativity and innovation?
Here's the key to AI. Know how to ask the right questions. That's it. That's the key to AI. People, it needs to be taught in schools. It needs to be taught in universities because, that's what the prompt is in AI. And I've been training how to do that. And once you learn it, boy, the results are different. The results really change. And I've been working with somebody who is a master at it, absolute master at it. He teaches how to do prompts where the prompts start asking you questions and you answer back, and the prompt keeps digging deeper and deeper and deeper, kind of like you, Dave. And it keeps pulling the information out deeper and deeper and deeper. And once you get that going, what that does is the AI doesn't control things. The AI is getting the information out of you, and you are controlling things. That's the important part. That's putting the human factor into everything. That's the scary part of AI, and that's where AI will go wrong, is when the human factor is not part of it.
Yeah.
And that's where AI gives you bad answers, bad info. And that's where I'm a little terrified of AI, where AI is taking over.
Yeah. And depending on the type of questions that humans ask, it can be an aspect that can be very difficult to manage.
Right. And AI can steer people into very dangerous places.
Yep. For me, AI is a time saver for me in a lot of different things,
Oh,
particularly
yeah.
when I do the podcast and put together episode notes and do editing. It's a wonderful assistant to have, but you also have to know the right questions to ask it. You also have to be very specific in terms of what you want it to do. Because if you don't go with the plan, it could be very overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I don't mind giving this gentleman a plug because he gives away a lot of things free. You don't have to pay him. He gives away a lot of things free. He wonderful gentleman. His name is Danny Inney, DANNY INNY. I encourage people, go to his website, check him out. He's incredible.
Yep.
And every couple of months, he'll do a 3-day, 8 hours a day webinar free.
Wow.
Pay him whatever you want. And the proceeds of that goes to charity. This guy he's terrific. And he'll give you prompts during these webinars that will do the sort of thing I just talked about. And he's amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like he's all about service.
He is totally. Now he does do services for businesses and he is a business, but he does this for free. And I just think the world of the man. He's tremendous. So I don't mind giving him a plug.
Let's say I am a leader. I come to you and I say, look, my organization is stagnant. I've heard that you do some wonderful things to help organizations and inspire creativity. But I'm worried about sacrificing efficiency. So how do we find a balance between inspiring creativity and not sacrificing efficiency?
Okay, first of all, failure is not inefficiency, okay? Let's just get that straight. Failure is not inefficiency.
Okay.
Because it takes you one step closer to where you want to be. The way you control creativity is get straight what you want. What are you after? You want to have the dreamer who's dreaming up stuff. That's fine. But you're throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah.
What's a good idea? What's a good idea? Would this help us? Would this help our customer? One of the ways you find out about that is do some focus groups. And I'm not saying you have to hire a company to go out and do focus groups. I'm saying talk to your customers. Hey, talk to your customers. What a concept. Find out if that would interest them. Does that ring a bell with you? See if you get some feedback on that. If you do, then maybe, okay, let's look into this. Is this a possibility? And then let's sit down and let's brainstorm this. And here's what happens in theater is somebody comes up with an idea, and then somebody else bounces off of that, and then somebody else bounces off of that. And that keeps happening. And pretty soon, suddenly, hey, we've got something here. This could work. That's what improvisational groups do, like Second City and Saturday Night Live when they come up with something good. Now they're on a rushed timetable, so coming up with real gems is pretty rare there.
Yep.
But in real improvisation groups, they'll bounce an idea around for a long time until they come up with something good. If you remember the show, if you ever saw it, Whose Line Is It?
Yep.
Right? I know it looked like they were just coming up with stuff off the top of their heads. No, they weren't. Here's how that show worked. They would brainstorm and they would come up with ideas, and then they would improv with each other and bounce that idea around. And then here's what they did. And a business can work like this. They would take their ideas and what they improved out, the scene, they would take it to a comedy club. And I watched them do this. They would take it to a comedy club and try it out on an audience. And then whatever worked on the audience, this was on Thursday night, they'd do that. Whatever worked on that audience, then they'd take that into the studio on Friday night and tape. Can a business work like that? Maybe. So they got creative. They tried it out through that process. Hey, this works. We know this works. And then they taped it. A business can do that with a product. So play, get creative, innovate, put it through your process, through your system, do tests with customers, see what works, now go into production.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, I look at organizations too that are looking at being regulated, let's say by the Joint Commission of Accreditation for Hospital Organizations. And one of the things that they're going to ask is show me evidence where your clients or your patients have collaborated in the process of treatment or have collaborated in really giving input in terms of a major organizational issue. Something like focus groups, role play, just impromptu, just gatherings, things like that can document that type of input and that type of collaboration.
Right. Now, what I just described is, of course, an incredibly simplified version of what a business would have to go through. But hey, that's how you do it.
Yep.
And a business can adapt that very simple version of it into what they do. And it's you want controls, you want budgets. You don't want to break the bank here, but a company should have a budget to do that kind of process, because you'll have failures. That, it won't work. But the one that works is the sort of breakthrough that can take a company to a whole new level.
Absolutely. But you won't know what that breakthrough is unless you experiment and unless you play.
Exactly. And if you're interested in staying put where you are, well, okay.
Yeah. I mean, we have a choice to just stay stagnant or to grow.
Yeah. And in small business, that's a choice you have to make.
Yep.
We worked with one woman who has a wonderful business. She makes pasta and sells it. It's a wonderful business. And she's expanded a little bit. And we were telling her, you have a great product and you are terrific. You should be on, morning TV shows selling your product because you are really good. She said, no, I don't want to do that. And we asked her why. She said, I want the time to be able to go to my kids' Little League games. I want to be able to do this and that. She's really committed to her family. Are we the ones to tell her, no, you should be more committed to your company? Heck no. Heck no. And so our suggestion to her is, okay, that's great. So keep working that company the way you are doing it. And the time will come maybe where you want to sell it to somebody who will expand it. And as long as you keep that company working the way you're working it, it's going to be worth something. Great. And we wish you all the best.
Yeah. But at least the seed was planted, and who knows?
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with doing that.
No,
There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. She's got a terrific business going, and fine.
yeah. I mean, if we plant seeds, they have an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
And actually, one of our recommendations to people is always run your company to sell it, because if you do, that company is always going to be in great shape.
oh, absolutely, because you want to
Yeah.
maximize the value of any business that you sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good Dogalogic sense.
Yeah, it's a good mindset.
It
Even
is.
if you have no intention of ever selling it, it's fine.
Yeah, but it's like when I talk to my students about documentation of behavior, I tell them document it as if that is going to last for eternity. So
Mhm.
make it the best note. Document it as if somebody else can be able to pick up and see where you want to go with this particular
Right.
client. If for some reason you're unable to continue,
Yeah.
you are sick, or you leave the agency. So
And also recognize that what you really want in life changes. It
Yeah.
changes as you go through life. What I wanted when I was 20 became completely different when I was 35. And it became completely different when I was 50. And now that I'm older, it changed again. That's okay. And that's just normal. That's just going through the different stages of life, and be aware that that will happen. And always keep checking on that. What is it that you really want?
Yeah, I mean, as I'm 70 now, I still ask myself, what do I really want? I'm still constantly growing. I'm still constantly figuring out what can I do to improve what I do, and that's not going to stop until I die.
Yeah.
So,
You don't keep chasing what you wanted 30 years ago,
no,
because it
No.
may not be what you want now.
no. And if I was chasing what I wanted 30 years ago, Carl, I think it would be a sign that I took a step backwards in my growth.
Exactly.
So somebody once asked me, do you remember the person you were at like 45? And I said, I need a search party to find that guy.
Yeah.
We are made to grow and to evolve
Yeah.
onto the best possible versions of ourselves so that we can make the best possible impact on those people that
Yeah.
cross our paths. So you have left us with, again, just so many good things today. I could probably talk to you for about another 2 hours. But I do.
Well, that's another 2 episodes, Dave.
There you go. We're going to have to figure out a part 3 and 4.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna have to go from there. But I'm going to ask you if you could leave our listeners with one ultimate takeaway, one thing you want them to take away from our discussion today. What would that be?
Well, if you want to get philosophical, it's what I just said. Don't keep chasing what you wanted 30 years ago. So just keep taking inventory, because it does change. And I think there's a lot of unhappy people out there that say to themselves, I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. All right. So figure out what you want to accomplish now. That's fine. I didn't accomplish becoming a movie star. Well, of course, I never wanted to be a movie star, but I didn't accomplish becoming a full-time Broadway actor. That's what I wanted. I didn't accomplish that, but I accomplished a lot of other things that I never dreamed of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. That was great, and I'm amazed at what I accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, your experience in the British theater was a stepping stone for everything else that you've done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, Here we go. Here we go. Always be open to the opportunities that come along. Go with the flow.
Yeah.
That's the thing about not chasing the goals that you had before. Be open to the flow. And that's what I did. I never wanted to be in IT. Are you kidding me? Boy, did it lead me into some great places though, and some wonderful times. And business consulting? Oh, please. But I'm so happy that I'm where I am now because I followed the flow. A speaker, a keynote speaker, never in my imagination. But it's taken me all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I've met so many great people and worked with so many great people. I just followed the flow, folks. That's it. Be open to that.
Yeah, I mean, because you never know what life's going to throw in front of you. So if the door opens, at least have the courage enough to go through the door and see if it fits.
Yeah. One door closes, the window opens. Just don't jump out of the window. Okay.
It's good sage advice. Or if you're going to jump out of a window, make sure it's like on the ground floor.
Yeah, exactly.
So Carl, my last question for you. If individuals want to get in touch with you, contract for your services, what's the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. You can get in touch with us at, Carl at, and that's Carl with a C, Carl at wearealphadogs.com. And we will be happy to get back to you. And we will be having some webinars coming up free, and anything I offer here is free.
And I'll make sure all of your contact information gets in the episode notes before we go live. Carl, thank you so much for the generosity of your time again, your wisdom. I have so much fun when we converse, and I hope we can figure out a part 3 and maybe a part 4 down the road.
All right, I'm up for it.
Excellent. And with that, that's a wrap on another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, wishing you peace.
Same here.